because we haven't talked to him for a while, Dave. From the Keys, Hall of Fame coach Jimmy Johnson joins us. Jimmy, good morning, brother. How you doing?
Joe, how are you and Dave doing? I tell you what, it couldn't be any better.
Hey, Dave and I were talking about you earlier today, and I said, I wonder how he's doing 82 years and the first time he's not working. Have you had any itch in the Keys going, I want to get back in it a little bit? Anything at all like that?
Absolutely not. I told Rhonda the other day, I've been working for I went to work when I was 9 years old and had jobs, even while I was going to school and everything else. And I said, this is the greatest life in the world.
What's your Sundays look like, Jimmy? What do you watch football
boy.
still?
Oh, it's unbelievable. It is so nice. Just like this, every weekend I get me about 9 or 10 hours of college football and then 9 or 10 hours of pro football. I got 3 TVs set up in my den. The only time I sneak out of there is to get some food. For instance, this last weekend I went fishing Saturday morning, caught 3 nice fish. I got back at 11:15 in time to get and watch the Miami and the Virginia Tech game. It's really been fun. I miss my guys. I love doing the Fox NFL Sunday, but I hated to travel. And it has worked out extremely well. I'm really happy with everything.
Jimmy, you didn't get shortchanged, just for the record, okay? This has been one hell of a long run and a damn good one. So I think it all worked out. Hey, so Jimmy, I got to ask you, speaking of college football, we got our Canes fans down here a little fired up that Notre Dame always gets the benefit of the doubt and Miami beat them head-to-head, and that's the only thing that matters. And by the way, the Canes still got a tough game on the road, as you know, going up to Pittsburgh to play Pitt this week in their final game. I'm just wondering what your thoughts are, being such a big part of that Notre Dame University of Miami rivalry.
Joe, of course, watching all these games, and being the former coach, I get frustrated on a lot of these games, saying, well, I would have done this or I would have done that, but I don't worry too much about, what I can't control. And, the only thing right now is the focus is we got to beat Pittsburgh. We got to go up there and beat a good football team and not worry about how they're going to vote, if it's going to make the playoffs or we're going to make for the conference championship. Hey, obviously head-to-head means something, but, the committee, I'm sure they look at the eye test and how you've played lately extremely, I think that's the big thing right now. But they got to beat Pittsburgh. That's the big thing.
Right.
I was watching the game Saturday, Jimmy, and Miami had to throw the late pass because style points matter. But I looked at that Notre Dame score, 70-7, and the first thing I thought of was Jimmy's game against Notre Dame, where he got called out on national TV. It was only 58-7, wasn't it, Jimmy? So you could have gone up another couple touchdowns.
The only thing is, I think Syracuse did it to themselves in that particular game. Throwing interceptions and block kicks and on and on. A lot of it was Syracuse's problems. And just like when we beat Notre Dame the way we did, hey, we only coach one team, and we couldn't coach Notre Dame that day. Well, Notre Dame against Syracuse, they couldn't coach Syracuse. Syracuse is the one that screwed up.
Right. It's funny. You remember? I remember when you used to let some teams go. Really get after and put up some big numbers. And now we're seeing this in college football, where teams are like, "Hey, man, we got to get some extra points here. We want everybody to know." And it's like, it's accepted. Where you used to be, they call you out. You don't understand. You're not a sportsman of the game, and all those type of things. It's incredible how things have changed over the years, Jimmy, when it comes to running up scores.
Yeah, Joe, I think a lot of that has to do with the transfer portal and the way players are moving around and with the NIL, because you get used to when you get up on a team by a large score. You just kind of sit on the football and you just kind of, you ran the football and ran the clock out. But nowadays, coaches have to keep all their players happy so they won't transfer. And so they put the backups in there, and they keep running their offense. They go ahead and try to score as much as they can because they want to keep their players happy. And so a lot of it has to do with the rules nowadays. And you're not necessarily running up the score. You're just playing all your players, and you're letting them develop. And, that way, if you have a player leave, this backup's going to be ready to play the next year. So the transfer portal, I think, has a lot to do with that.
All right, let's go to the NFL now, because I'm curious. It's kind of wide open this year. Who are you looking at? Is there any team that's grabbed you as you sit down in the Keys watching all these games?
The Los Angeles Rams, they are playing so good. I think, first of all, Sean McVay's a great football coach. Really smart. I know him well. We're good friends. He's got some great players. Matthew Stafford, he was on our show a few times, really playing out of his mind at an old age. And then Chris Shula has done a great job, with that defense. Dave's son, I remember him well, back when he coached for me with the Cowboys. And they've done a great job. They got some great players. It's a great organization, and they're playing extremely well.
Jimmy, it's funny because I was saying that the other day, that is the team you look at and go, after they went all in to win that Super Bowl, and they did win it. And then they said, hey, because of the amount of money we spent, we're going to have to let some guys go, and we're going to have to build it through the draft. Boy, they built it through the draft pretty quickly. They hit big on some drafts, didn't they?
They got some great players. They got the defensive end, from Florida State. Of course, the whole key, Joe, in the NFL, if you're going to be a championship team, you have to have the right quarterback. That's the whole key. I mean, you've got to have a quarterback that not only is talented, that's an accurate passer, he makes great decisions. And then you develop your team around that quarterback. If you don't have the quarterback, you got no shot. But the teams that are winning are the teams that got great quarterbacks.
Jimmy, this thing in the AFC, I agree with you. The Rams look like they're out of this world, and most of that division is strong to start with. But anybody in the AFC, I know right now the Patriots have the most wins. They could get home field throughout because that schedule looks pretty positive.
That schedule is easy for them. You look at who they're playing the last part of the year, and with the record, they got 10 wins now. So they're going to have home field advantage, and that's going to give them an advantage playing there in Foxborough. Drake Maye has actually played so much better than what I thought he was going to play. I watched him in North Carolina, and I thought he was a talented player, but I didn't see him being special. But he is special. And then Mike Vrabel is an outstanding football coach. I mean, he's physical. He's got some toughness about him. And they've done a great job of kind of redoing that team after, having 2 or 3 down years. So they're going to have an advantage on everybody. But in the AFC, other than maybe Indianapolis, because they picked up some good players there here a couple of weeks ago, and they've got Daniel Jones is playing well. They're a well-coached team. I talked to Norv Turner the other day. Steichen actually was one of his assistants, and so he's running Norv Turner's offense, the same type of offense that we ran, of course, when we were at Dallas. And, the Colts are a good football team, but it looks like New England's got the advantage on everybody right now.
All right, let's talk about this Netflix documentary. I haven't talked to you about this. I'm curious. the Jerry Jones production,
America's team.
Exactly right.
America's team, as
America's team, and America's owner. America's owner. Go ahead.
As seen through the prism of Jerry Jones.
Well, Jerry told me when we're at North Carolina, we announced I was going in the Ring of Honor. He made some off-color joke, and the cameras were rolling. I said, Jerry, you got the cameras here. He said, hey, I got final edit on this documentary. So he said, don't you worry about anything. Well, after watching the documentary, he had final edit.
All of a sudden, the Herschel Walker trade.
Yeah.
It's
by the way, you had nothing to do with that trade. You know that. Come on.
and don't you know that pissed me off because I spent an hour and a half explaining the trade on that on film on tape to all the producers and everything. I spent an hour and a half explaining the trade, and then I told them about my contract, where in my contract I had total control of all football operations, football players, coaches, etc. And so about a week later, they said, could you send us a copy of that contract? And so I sent him a copy of the contract. Don't you know they spent 2 minutes on the Herschel Walker trade and did not mention the contract?
It's incredible for that guy. And by the way, he is a marketing genius. I do want to give him credit, Jimmy. Nobody markets as an owner in the world like Jerry does. I mean, you know, everything starts with him to this day.
Well, he told me, he said, you know what, I keep us in headlines. He said, and his wife, Jean, was sitting right next to him when he said it. He said, I keep us in headlines. You know, sometimes Jean doesn't like the stuff that they got headlines for, but he said, I keep us in headlines.
I guess that's why they since you left, since your players left, the ones you brought in, they haven't won anything. And it doesn't matter.
Right.
They still get rating. I don't understand it. They still get ratings, you know, through the roof.
Oh, yeah. Well, he keeps them in headlines. And they actually have a pretty good football team right now. He made a couple of nice trades picking up Quinn Williams and then, you know, of course, the receiver from Pittsburgh.
Yeah, by the way. Wow, did he? Boy, they made some great deals.
Is he a good player, man? But they're playing pretty good right now. But, yeah, I think they're so far in the hole, you know, they're not going to be able to do it this year. And if they can keep Pickens, you know, next year, they'll have a pretty good football team next year.
And by the way, on Thanksgiving, Kansas City at Dallas. My God, there are going to be a lot of eyeballs besides just ours, guys, watching that game. That should be one hell of a game with Mahomes and that team desperate. You count now Kansas City? Are you still feel pretty good about them getting in?
Yeah, I think they're right on the borderline. You know, I mean, they have come back to the pack. Anytime you got Mahomes, you got a shot because, you know, he's the greatest quarterback I've ever seen, you know, and, you know, so you have a shot with him, but their overall team, you know, I think because some of the injuries early in the year and, you know, not having Rice, you know, hurt them a little bit, they're going to struggle, but hey, they could get a run. Who knows? With Mahomes, anything could happen.
I got to ask you the other one, just because you know him so well. You and Bill Belichick have been friends for a long time. He comes down. You're watching.
You're going to ask me that question.
Even Jimmy just has to break into laughter over.
Hey, I can't imagine. I'd love to see your face with all this stuff when you turn to your wife and you go, I can't believe it.
No.
Why is he putting himself through this?
Oh, boy. Bill and Jordan came down right before the season. And, you know, of course, I had big eyes during that time. Yeah, I actually don't even want to talk to him during the season. I've texted him a couple of times. They're struggling. You know, they brought in 70 new players.
Yep.
And, you know, and a lot of those players were really not good players. He trusted Mike Lombardi to do the personnel, who is his general manager. And they brought in a lot of players that were just very marginal. And now, you know, they're going to get better because he's a great football coach. But, you know, he struggled with some of the personnel there his last 2 years at New England. And I think eventually they will be a better football team, but it has been a soap opera here, you know, the last couple of months.
Yeah, it's got something for everyone in the family up there at North Carolina. Hey, Jimmy, have a great Thanksgiving, man. Can't thank you enough for spending some time with us from the Keys before that big walk you're going on. Thank you.
All right. Well, good talking to you guys.
All right, Jimmy.
Take care. Jimmy Johnson, Hall of Fame coach, joining us, talk a little bit about a lot of different things. That documentary is that's funny.
He is him and Jerry, you know, the line he has on Jerry and him, he goes, people try to explain our relationship and no one knows what it's like. And you know why? Because I don't even know what it's like.
Yeah, it's amazing. That is incredible.